My hair smells like burnt mushrooms.
I'll lick your teeth if you want.
How does one turn on a wand?
Welcome. I'm Kat.
I'm Hunter.
And we are your Fairy Gaymothers Sorta. Welcome back.
Is this episode 11?
This is episode 11.
Angel numbers, baby.
Editing Kat jumping in here just to say, yes, this is our 10th episode, not our 11th. We did proceed to crash out about it being the 11th episode for an additional 3 minutes, so maybe tune in next week to see if that clip will get pushed to the next episode. But yeah, enjoy episode 10.
If in the middle of us talking, you hear Katrina going, yeah! It's for the game.
It's for the game. It's on in the background. I'm locked in the moment, but I am in the arena in my periphery, okay?
So you're stuck with me because I shan't be watching.
Yeah. It's women's sports, don't worry.
That makes it worse that I just said I shan't be watching and you were like, it's because it's women.
No, it's the only reason for my distraction. You have a pass when it comes to hockey players. You don't need to be locked in on anything they do.
Okay, why don't you explain to the audience what a fairy gay mother is, very briefly?
All right. It's really someone or something, a being in existence on this earth who is trying to improve it in some way. And that is mainly through good vibes. And good vibes can take the form of activism, athletic achievements, art, other creative pursuits, sometimes being really hot and good at what you do, whatever that may be. And overall, just making the world a better place in a queer, unexpected way. You're keeping people on their toes, and we admire you for it.
Love that. So, in our journey to becoming these fairy gay mothers, we've tacked on the sort of because we're not quite there yet. And so we have a self-imposed curriculum, and each week we go through a lesson. So why don't you just tell us what the lesson is today so what the viewers can expect to come up?
All right. This week's lesson in the self-imposed curriculum is know thy crime or do thy time.
So we'll be talking about true crime, and we'll get into that later, but first we have a couple segments that we like to go through. So segment number 1 is we like to highlight a fairy gay mother of the week.
Yeah.
As it is Black History Month, we have been highlighting only Black fairy gay mothers, and Kat has brought another example to us. Why don't you share with the class?
This week's fairy gay mother is none other than the brilliant Janelle Monáe.
Oh, great choice.
Yeah. Writer, singer, producer, actress, overall incredible human being. Predominantly singer. I will say that's probably what she's known for, but you would have also probably seen her in Hidden Figures, in the Knives Out movie from 2022, so she's ventured into acting a little bit more. But I will say I wanted to spotlight her particularly for her particularly for her music. Dirty Computer, her album, is one of my favorite albums of all time. Her art is always a complete work. It's never just an album. There's a very carefully crafted story. For her, there's a very carefully crafted persona or an alter ego, which she has called Cindy Mayweather. And she really leans into kind of Afrofuturism. So it's a reimagining of African culture, Black bodies, using sci-fi and robotics. And it's used to kind of retell, but also reimagine a future for Black people.
That's
in all
so
walks
cool.
of life. Yeah. So Dirty Computer really builds on that and explores that. She has a film of the same name that accompanied the album, as well as an anthology of stories that she published with the album too. And she's openly queer as well. She also has been known to distribute the 10 droid commandments at her concert, and I'm going to briefly list some of them for you because I love them. Believe in the arch-android. If you see your neighbor jamming harder than you, covet his or her jam. Any song lyrics you know must be sung. If you do not know English, sing loudly in any language of your choosing. Be aware that there is no right or wrong language, for the arch-android was recorded all over the world. By the show's end, you must transform. This includes, but is not limited to, eye color, perspective, mood, or height.
Height.
Lastly, please be aware that children conceived during the show or within 48 hours thereafter may be born with wings. The Wonderland Art Society will not be held liable for this phenomenon or be held responsible for parenting or providing your flying children.
I feel like you would love one of her shows.
I would. It's literally like on my bucket. She is pushing the limits of
Yeah.
what art is, what concerts are,
Yeah.
how we consume art, how we make art, like just embodies everything that is so freaking cool today.
Yeah. I feel like I'm dumb shaming, I don't care. I feel like she would be more popular if more people were smart enough to get it.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this, like Addison Rae's album. Like, if like you're either a genius and you love it, or you just don't get it.
Like you either get it and you're like, haha, that's good, or you get it.
Or you get it.
You're
locked
locked
in. Whoa. Moving on to our next segment. This is a new one, and we're calling it the Hinge Cringe. And I know that we said embrace the cringe. Not like this. These people are embracing it in the wrong way. And so we're not going to do this segment every week, but we're just going to bring up something horrific that's happened to either us or someone that we know on Hinge.
Maybe just dating in general.
Maybe just dating in general.
Like we called out Kelly's story
That's true.
last week. So overall, the segment is going to be called Hinge Cringe.
Yeah. Would you like to go first?
So the cringe that I'm bringing to the table this week is kind of generally, I think people love to, in their little prompts, really quickly overshare something. Like there was one prompt that's a life goal of mine, and this person said, not getting cheated on again.
Oh, there's some things that are meant to be a secret.
You know what? Maybe if that helps you get over it, great. Reclaim the power. You can laugh at it, sure. Putting that on your dating profile, that's bold.
It's prematurely letting me know that you're insecure.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be insecure and to battle with those emotions after being cheated on, for sure. But it's just like, it's none of my business that you went
No.
through that
No.
yet.
Like maybe drop that on a third date.
I'm just curious, like, what she thought that was giving to someone who's looking at their profile. Like, I wouldn't be like, real. And like, give it a heart. What am I supposed to respond to that? Sure. I won't. Maybe.
Okay, what's yours?
This was a message that I received, and I'm pretty sure this person has like copied and pasted it. I don't think I was unique. But they liked one of my photos, and they said, I would fight a pack of wild mountain lions in a handicapped stall at a local McDonald's with my hands bound and nothing but a shake weight super glued to my forehead as my only weapon just to be able to take you out for coffee. Pardon? So just imagine, I was like...
I respect the enthusiasm. I do.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
It's so... My brain, instead of being like, oh wow, like they really want to take me for coffee, my brain was like, shake weight on the forehead. Like,
Yeah. Wait, let me see if I can remember what that said.
okay.
So we've got fighting a pack of mountain lions in the handicapped stall of a McDonald's bathroom with a shake weight as their only weapon.
And their hands bound.
And
the shake weight is on their forehead. Super glued to the forehead.
Super glue. That's some strong ass super glue. Like, are you waiting in the McDonald's for them to get out of the
McDonald's
bathroom?
coffee that we're having? And like, do you think you would win? Because otherwise, you're just
that would take insane neck strength to be able to.
Well, how heavy is? What about the rebound?
How much? Yeah. How heavy is the shake weight?
I had
concussion so badly.
I had like so many follow-up questions that I was like, I don't actually think I can engage in this conversation.
You've opened too many doors. I have far too many questions.
But like, and also, why is it the handicap stall? Or did we need the handicap stall because your hands are bound?
I didn't even.
How are you getting in the stall?
Yeah.
If your hands are bound, who's super gluing?
Who put you there?
And it was a rose. It was a rose. This person sent me a rose and sent this, which means that I was in their like rose jail. They also had the prompt I go crazy for. And this list was Renee Rapp, good sweaters, pretty hands, insatiable women, a nice scotch, bad weather, lesing out, hedonism, and 9/11 jokes. Like there was just, I would rather you tell me you've been cheated on. Nothing but best of luck to you in your Hinge endeavors.
Yeah, truly.
And that's the end to the Hinge Cringe segment. Please send us in your own examples if you're on Hinge or any dating app or any funny dating stories that you would like to share anonymously. We would love to read through. Just like my mother shared last week.
Yes.
Would love other dating stories.
Absolutely.
And let's take a quick little break.
Sure.
Before we dive into our next segment.
All right. See you soon.
Okay, welcome back. Waiting. Actually, leave again. Okay, welcome back.
Welcome back.
We're going to move into our next segment, which is the Crash Bit Bang segment. On our way to becoming Fairy Gaymothers, we hit some bumps in the road. We hit a stride sometimes, and this is just a perfect opportunity for us to share those.
Yes.
So, Kat, why don't you start by sharing your crash out of the week?
I'm, for the second episode in a row, going to share an Olympic crash out.
Oh, I really thought she was going to say traitors, so this is huge. Huge.
No, not. I don't think I have anything to say about the traitors this episode. Huge news. No, this morning was the bronze medal game between the Swiss and the Swedish women.
Oh.
So the Swiss women won the bronze medal 12 years ago.
Okay.
And haven't won again since. They've been in like 3 other bronze medal matches and they've lost the last 3 in a row. And Alina Mueller is one of the assistant captains, alternate captains on the Swiss team. She was part of that team that won the bronze medal 12 years ago. As a 15-year-old, she scored the bronze medal winning goal.
Whoa, good for her. I would never, ever, ever develop any sort of personality beyond that.
And she's an incredible hockey player. I believe she plays for the Boston Fleet now.
Oh, no way.
So this is her 5th Olympics this year. So she helped get the Swiss team back to the bronze medal game. Now, Team Sweden, also very fierce competitors. Their program has been in kind of a rebuild, so it was a huge milestone for them to get to the bronze medal game. And it was a really good game. It was tied 1-1 from the second all the way till the end of the third. So we go to overtime, and it's 10-minute overtime, 3-on-3.
Okay.
There is about 1 minute and 30 seconds left in OT. The Swedish goalie is standing on her head. Both goalies are making phenomenal saves. Both teams have chances, end-to-end rushes. The Swiss women go back into their zone, regroup. Way is one of the players' names, follows up behind Alina Mueller. Mueller skates it into the zone, drop pass over to Way. Way finds Mueller back at the front of the net. Quick backhand, forehand, top corner. Alina Mueller scores the bronze medal winning goal 12 years after she originally did it at the ripe age of 15. Just tosses off her helmet, immediately celebrates. A little tear comes to my eye. I'm crashing out. It was so good. And I freaking love women's sports. I love the Olympics. And
she loves the Olympics.
It was a very positive, lovely crash out for me.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, what a Swiss story of success. What a Swiss comeback.
What a Swiss comeback. All right, what about your crash out?
It's also Olympic space, actually. And it was a negative crash out to start, but it really led to some amazing memes afterwards. So if you've been following the Olympics at all, especially in Canada, you would have seen the Canadian curling team controversy that we were accused of doing a double touch. So for those who don't know the curling rules, basically, you're allowed to touch the stone up until it gets to the green line. And then once it goes past the green line, you're not allowed to touch it anymore. So we were accused of touching it again after it had already gained momentum in the forward motion. There was a slow-mo. We did, in fact, cheat. We certainly cheated. And I don't actually think it would make a huge impact because he just kind of flicks it. It's part of his
release.
His release, thank you. However, if you are to the level of curling that you're playing in the Olympics, you should probably
refine your technique.
But anyways, we certainly cheated. And I think we were eliminated anyways. So
okay,
it doesn't matter. We didn't win anything.
Yeah.
Me again. This team won the gold medal, actually. Fingergate won gold.
But recently, the people have been taking his, like, the slow-mo of his stance, like throwing it and then the little flick of his finger, and have been putting it against the figure skating competitions. And every time someone falls, they like line up him and then they flick his finger and the skater falls. And someone was like, I found out why everyone's slipping in figure skating. It's just that Canadian flicking the skates. It was so freaking funny.
Yeah.
So what's your bit?
My bit. Recently, I was going back through my camera roll for reaction pictures because I love a good reaction picture. Sometimes when words aren't enough, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a reaction picture with some words on it is worth 1,003.
And give yourself some credit. Kat is incredible at reaction pictures, memes. Like, it is a humor that I don't possess, and it makes me laugh every time.
Yeah. And I rediscovered one that is, it's actually more like a mini comic.
Okay.
So they're not even like human people, but I'll say they're like humanoids or whatever for audio only listeners. It's basically a guy working the concession stands at a movie theater, and he asks this couple, a man and a woman humanoid, what kind of popcorn would you like, sweet or salty? And the man turns to the woman, their foreheads are connected, and he goes, I want popcorn like her. And the concession worker turns back and goes, we do not have ugly popcorn. It just gets me every time.
And even if that concession worker lost their job for that, it would be worth it.
I just think it's like peak autism humor. Like, it's so good. It's so good. Like, we do not have ugly popcorn.
Please pick sweet or salty. That's so good.
Oh, that's my bit. That's my bit. What about yours?
I have two just little bits that I've been saying recently. I saw this as a tweet, and it was every time I have to hang out with my friends' boyfriends, I feel like Jane Goodall. And then the next, this one's not as funny, but the next bit is just like anytime I've done something wrong recently or like someone has called me out, I go, eventually I must be dealt with. Not right now.
Nevertheless, I persist.
I just like that, like, eventually I must be dealt with.
Yeah.
That's it.
Those were good. Those were good.
And what's your bang?
My bang has been How to Get to Heaven from Belfast.
Oh!
Which is the latest Netflix series from Lisa McGee, the creator of Dairy Girls. But God, the Northern Irish accent gets me good. And just the characters are so freaking zany and outlandish, but hilarious. And also, like, you really feel for them. I don't know. Like, I think it's a testament to the actors in the show, but also, like, the writing and the way that, like, the storyline is set up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just addicting. Like, this one is more of a, like, dark comedy, murder mystery.
Oh, okay.
So it's darker for sure than
The
Dairy Girls, but it's still so funny and so good, and I just can't stop watching it. I am only 4 episodes in, but it hasn't taken me that long to get there.
Yeah, I think Sean, who we were also with, one of our friends, is watching it too and was like, hey, this is actually really funny.
It's so funny.
I would die for Dairy Girls.
Yeah.
Sister Michael is all I ever want to be in life. Like, and honestly, including the nun part, leave me alone. Like,
What has your bang been?
I guess it's like a bang and a crash out, but it's the stupid arrow game. Basically, it's like dotted paper and there's a bunch of arrows. It's literally like Traffic Jam. Like, have you ever played the game where you have to like release the cars
Like
in a
Rush
certain
Hour,
order?
yeah.
Yes, thank you. And I downloaded this this is my 3rd day with this app. Okay. I'm on level 1016 and it's taken over my life. Like, I can't, I play it all the time. And my screen time is actually relatively low. Used to be. And my largest amount of like time on my phone was spent on the text. Like, on average, it says I get around like 200 texts a day. So I'm picking it up 200 times. Tell me why.
King Christ, you get 200 texts a day.
That's not to say I'm answering them, but I am picking up the phone to look at them. Yeah, it was like 190 something a day. And tell me why my message time has been less than 20 minutes in the past 2.5 days. But my time on the arrow game is over 4 hours.
Wowee. Wow.
And you are like that with Angry Birds,
I was, yeah.
but she deletes the app.
Yeah.
So that I can't do that. I'm sorry. I won't be
I-
losing my progress.
I give myself 10 days maximum, and then I have to rein it in. I go, Katrina, look at your life.
Full government name.
How much time are you losing of your life on this app? And it's almost never worth it. And then I end up deleting it.
But your progress.
I don't care.
I do.
I don't care.
See, the thing is, have you heard of like the double screen phenomenon?
I don't think so.
Okay, basically it's just trying to explain that like now, because of how much media we consume and how available it is, people are relatively looking at two screens all the time. So if TV's on, they're also scrolling on their phone or whatever. And I fear that the Arrow game is the perfect game for the double screen phenomenon. I watched an entire show with my mother, also did 100 levels.
Right. If you wanted something to help with that, start watching a TV show in a foreign language where you have to look at the subtitles. Because I find that helps. Or a TV show where they have really thick accents. So you have to look at the subtitles.
Okay. Maybe the From Belfast to Heaven or whatever it's called
Yeah.
will be my show. I think it might be part of, you know how we joked about like me needing my screen to be clean?
Yeah.
Like I think it's like the perfect way of gamifying that. But give me some props. I have not paid for the ad-free experience.
Huge.
The ads are my punishment.
Huge.
Alrighty, well, catch you later.
See you in a few.
See you in a few.
All right. So this week's lesson is know thy crime or do thy time. Woo. Basically, we wanted to talk about true crime and society's obsession with true crime and the history of it all, but also dive a little bit deeper into why we're so obsessed with it, kind of like our perspectives on it, and a little bit of academic research that we've done. Anything to add to that? Or
No, I think you summed it up real nicely. So why don't you dive right in, and Kat's going to give us kind of a brief overview of true crime and its rise to fame.
I am indeed. I'm going to pull out my notes. Alrighty. So in general, true crime, the term, is a genre that humans have been fascinated with for centuries. It truly kind of dates back to the 1500s.
Oh.
When murderous tales would be circulated via kind of the oral tradition of ballads. So there would be songs about, like, oh, Mother Elizabeth killed her baby. The lady. And those
That's a beautiful rendition. Thank you. I basically feel like I was in the 1500s experiencing that.
Yeah. And they would be kind of like these tall tales that would be circulated. And then in the 16 to 1700s, it was very popular to have execution sermons, mostly in Puritan towns, where people would gather around and hear a lecture on the crimes of the person about to be executed and kind of highlight the moral implications of their crime. And they often included sensationalized dialogue and morbid details. I liked this quote from the article that I was reading, in order to create vivid character portraits of the condemned. So really kind of using the stories to keep people in check.
Right.
But also providing kind of that entertainment.
And you know what? The hanging tree in the Hunger Games? Fire song. Super entertaining.
And during this time period, you also have the Salem witch trials going on. It's obviously still talked about today, just because of how crazy it was that you had nearly 200 people in this tiny town of Massachusetts who were killed for supposedly being witches. But you also had people who were writing about it firsthand, like Cotton Mather's The Wonders of the Invisible World, which became extremely popular and helped kind of increase the popularity of these true crime writings being circulated. But you still have to remember that in this time, the masses are not literate. So true crime is something that's mostly exclusive to the higher classes.
Interesting.
Until kind of the 1800s, when you've got penny dreadfuls, which were cheap, gruesome pamphlets filled with stories about vampires and ghosts, but also real crime. And they became widely available, also due to their low cost. But this is where we get stories like Sweeney Todd, though the version we know today is very likely far removed from the original story.
I'm assuming they weren't singing.
And well, no, and that's
Could you imagine someone's about to murder you and you start whipping out a song?
I think that musical is based on a book, but
Oh. About Sweeney Todd, though.
yes, the demon barber of Fleet Street. Hit it! Continuing in the 19th and then into the early 20th centuries, true crime compilations or books were churned out for more public consumption. You've got a lot more people becoming literate.
Mm-hmm.
And a very popular magazine was called True Detective, which started in 1924 and originally was fictional stories, but eventually became very popular and was a lot of true crime. And then what really changed the game, according to my research, was Truman Capote's In Cold Blood, where Capote began his research while the murderers of the Clutter family were still at large, and he traveled to Kansas to interview the local residents. Like, he really took the true story, stretching the truth a little bit where he needed to, but fictionalizing it in a sense that it followed a narrative arc. And that's what really got people interested in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of changed from, strictly reporting on facts to getting people invested in these real life horrors.
Right.
And then we get into the 1980s true crime boom, where you've got the documentary The Thin Blue Line in 1988, which was really seen to be kind of the first of the genre.
Yeah.
And then in the 1990s, you've got the O.J. Simpson trial, which everyone follows.
Yeah.
I don't think the masses had really seen a case like that unfold in real time with cameras in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Everyone knowing exactly what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that marked a real turning point in how invested people get and the information that they were able to assemble.
Yeah.
And their personal kind of investment in these cases. So when we look at the true crime genre today and in the 2000s, you have to talk about Serial as kind of the OG true crime podcast.
Yeah.
Sarah Koenig telling the story of Adnan Syed.
Yep.
And as the name suggests, the serialized podcast format, which nowadays there are 1 billion of them who are trying to kind of replicate exactly what she did. And also kind of in that real time as well. There were updates to the case that she was following. There were firsthand interviews. And then you get the 2018 Making a Murderer on Netflix, which blew up the docuseries. So it's these emerging forms of media that allow people to get a different perspective of the story rather than just the facts. They're getting involved in the emotional arc.
Right.
That have kind of led us to where we are today with the explosion of the true crime genre as one of the most popular genres today.
Absolutely.
I think it's like more than 51% of people who consume media consume true crime content. Like that's a
huge
crazy
audience
figure.
Base. Yeah.
And now with social media, that allows people to spread theories very easily, dive into cases more personally. You saw that with the Gabby Petito case a couple years ago, people speculating in real time where she was, what was happening to her.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we are right now. And as something that's so inescapable, we find ourselves in conversation all the time about like, what are the impacts of this? Like beyond what are the ethics of talking about this so much, but like, why do we love this genre? And what does that say about us as human beings? So I'll hand it over to you now, Hunter.
Thanks, girl.
Delving in a little bit deeper.
Okay. I did kind of a lot of different research because I think that you can really focus on true crime and its consumers in different aspects. But one of the largest reported on phenomenons is that the majority of true crime watchers are women. There's a comedian, and I don't remember her name, but she does a whole bit about how she watches true crime because she loves a plan. And nothing is more strategically executed than a murder. And I think there's lots of jokes and tweets that go around that are like, your husband goes out with his boys and you're watching like the most gruesome true crime thing on the TV before you go to bed. And I will say that Kat is guilty of this. Sometimes when we were sharing hostels or whatever while we were traveling, she would fall asleep with her earbuds in. This is probably this was a long time ago, but she would fall asleep with her earbuds in, and I like the good Samaritan I am would be like, let me take that out. But also, like the nosy Samaritan I am, I'd put it in my ear, and would I not hear, and then her throat was ripped out. And I was like, wow. I'm so glad that this is lulling you to sleep, Queen.
I would just like to clarify, I haven't listened to true crime
No, it's been a long
podcasts
time.
in years, but that is absolutely a true story. I absolutely was falling asleep to them. I would listen to them. Yeah, no matter kind of what I was doing, I was just really enthralled.
Yeah. And so that's just kind of like a real life example. But I wanted to go further into this as to like why specifically women are consuming this so much. And so I specifically focused on one article called Obsessed with Murder, True Crime and Gender. It was by H. Gray. And it really just kind of consolidated a bunch of other research that has been done on this. It was like a nice literature review. So I'll be mentioning other papers, but I will link the original paper.
Yeah. In case you haven't checked it out before, if we're ever talking about like statistics or facts or whatever, they're almost always going to be linked in the description. So if you ever want to read further on something that we say or even fact check us, just check out the description and we'll try and like give a brief summary of what the article is that we're linking to.
So this first study was, I think one of the like most popular research papers was conducted by Sweeney. And so the study showed that most violent crime in society is perpetuated against women. And there was a connection between women like watching true crime and then also experiencing violent crime in their own lives. And after like surveying a bunch of women and who consumed that media, they had found that women say that they like to watch it because it helps them to better understand the like darker psychology of violent crime and contextualize it within their society and then come to terms with what's happened to them. So a lot of the times they would report like a violent crime happening to them, this like a woman, and then not be able to fully rationalize why it happened to them, like why someone would do this. And so watching true crime and hearing of other people's experiences or seeing male perpetrators would help them kind of contextualize it within society and see what might lead someone to do that and kind of just like better understand their own involvement in it, I guess. Not involvement, their own victimization of it. Moving further from that, there was a study by Vickery and Fraley, and they said that women are drawn to it often as a survival guide. Most of the true crime that women are consuming is centered around a female victim, and specifically those where escape is discussed.
Wow.
So when they already know that the woman has survived whatever the crime was, women are more drawn to watch those specific true crime stories because they can take note of things that have happened against women in society and then learn how this woman escaped it and kind of keep it in their mind as what would I do in that situation.
That reminds me, the main true crime podcast that I would listen to when I was listening to it was Crime Junkie. And I don't remember what they would call it, but there would be brief mentions in a lot of the episodes about like, okay, crime junkies, like take note of this, like remember not to do this, remember to do this, like remember to have a list or like notes in your house so that like if you go missing, someone knows where to look.
Yeah.
So that completely aligns with,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, even like what true crime creators are selling to their audience.
Yeah, and so it seems like there was kind of like the two distinct groups. The first one that the study focused on was women who had experienced violent crime themselves and how like sometimes watching other people experience similar trauma, like while it could be triggering, it also allowed them to rationalize and kind of compartmentalize what happened. But then there was the other group of women who are simply scared. And so there was a study by German, and it proposed that women use the genre as a tool to like release their fear, but in a controlled environment with a straightforward and like predictable narrative, since they already know the outcome going into it, or it's very easy to find, like especially when it's true crime. Like for example, the Ted Bundy tapes, everyone knew going into that the women that were featured were victims and had been killed.
Mm-hmm.
So going into that, there's not as much anxiety with it, so you can release that fear of what would happen to you already knowing the outcome, and that it's the fear of violence itself that leads women to true crime. And so it kind of shows a non-idealized and realistic display of violent crime that doesn't fictionalize kind of like what happens sometimes when you watch like Law and Order SV or Criminal Minds. Like sometimes those things are beyond preposterous that you couldn't understand that, whereas because these are acts that have happened in real society, like the violent crime is easier to understand.
Right.
And so they hope that in watching this, they'll be able to prevent themselves from being victimized.
Huh.
So you said that you used to consume true crime. Do you think any of that would have led you to?
I don't know if consciously that was the reason why. I think certainly subconsciously. Like, I even can remember when I was younger, I used to love watching like disaster shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be so anxious about them. But I was like, if I watch these, then I'll know what to do if something like this ever happens. And so I'm sure subconsciously, at least, there was some element of that as well. Like, oh, if I, listen to this and hear this story, I'll be better equipped for if something like that ever happens to me. I'll know exactly what to do.
Yeah. And I remember one time you were listening to like what at the time was reported as the most gruesome true crime that had happened against a woman. And I sometimes think that maybe even personally, like when consuming it, if I see what the absolute worst is, then I feel like everything else isn't as scary.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, at least that didn't happen, or at least, which is a silly way of looking at it. Like I should not be using other people's trauma to like justify that things are less scary. Like, it could be worse. But I think it kind of eases some fear or anxiety to see, okay, like this is the worst that could happen. How can I prevent myself from getting to there? Not that we should be putting any of the onus on victims.
No.
But I think it makes women, or at least myself, feel more secure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was kind of like the research that I did on the main audience. I didn't look too much into her also are interested in consuming that media. I do know there is a morbid curiosity that like lots of researchers report on that may not necessarily like be explained by a tangible item, but just psychology that there is it. Like it's kind of the phenomenon like when you drive past a car crash, like the traffic is slower because everyone needs to take their turn to gawk. Like there is a morbid curiosity of it.
Yeah. When we were going into this episode and we were like, oh, why do people love it? I don't even know that the preparedness element really, really crossed my mind. So it's just really interesting to know that makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't even have to be like murder as the crime, but I know that for me, actually, when I went to university, I started watching a lot of movies about like harassment and sexual assault on campuses.
Oh.
So there's one called The Hunting Ground.
Okay.
I believe it's a documentary. I think it was Harvard, but I could be wrong about which university it was. So take that with a grain of salt.
Okay.
But it was basically just about women who had been victimized and targeted in sexual assault attacks on campus, and how little universities do to kind of prevent and or support the victim afterwards. And it definitely was for me, out of like a fear.
Yeah.
But I don't think I recognized that at the time. I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. What's happening?
Yeah.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Insert rainbow. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
But would you like to give kind of like a brief overview of maybe what the new Netflix fictionalizations of these, like the Monster series where they did Dahmer, I believe they've done...
The Lyle...
the Menendez brothers.
Menendez brothers, yeah.
And they have one recently. I cannot remember who it is.
Ed Gein, I think.
Oh, okay. Yes, it was Ed Gein. There's the movie Shockingly Evil and Incredibly Vile or whatever. The one, it was the quote from what the judge said when they sentenced Ted Bundy. Maybe just like kind of an overview of how they treat these crimes and what it looks like.
Yeah. Shout out to our man, Ryan Murphy. He did a lot of the production on some of these. And
you can't say he doesn't have range.
No, you really can't. You really can't. Well, I mean, the worst of society. That's what he loves.
That's what he loves. Yeah, Glee.
Horrors, really. So with most of these series, it tends to be a fictional retelling of true events, mostly focusing around the perpetrator of the crimes. And I think ultimately they speak to that kind of morbid curiosity that we were talking about, that true horror of these crimes that have been actually perpetrated. And that's where kind of the fear and also I think the addiction to like watching them comes from, is you're like, how did someone get away with this? Like, it's also the fascination with kind of the worst of society. People like to see not only things that they can relate to, but things that they can't relate to.
Yeah.
In order to try and better understand humanity.
Yeah.
And they're also extremely gruesome, graphic, horrific stories. I personally have a lot of trouble, and I don't tend to engage with those stories because I think, particularly when we talk about Ed Gein and Dahmer and those like serial killers,
Mhm.
not so much just the media frenzy cases like the Menendez
Mhm.
brothers. There was so much damage done to those victims and those communities that has never really been rectified or
Mhm.
undone. And sensationalizing and fictionalizing the story, even if it paints the killers as these horrible monsters, I don't think does anything to actually bring justice or truth to any of the victims' families.
Mhm.
So I don't really love those, but it's undeniable that they are extremely popular.
Absolutely. I think that's a good place now for me to kind of jump in
Okay.
and talk about the impact of those types of movies on society. I mean, honestly, when I went through the research, there's a lot of damage, but the biggest thing is that they're like exploiting the trauma, and I'm just going to pause.
Sorry, we scored.
And that's so real.
It was a shorthanded goal.
No, that's okay.
I'm collected. Continue.
It is exploiting the trauma and the victims for entertainment value. And a big thing was that it was causing co-victims to re-experience it and relive it. So lots of people who were either involved in the case or knew someone who was involved in the case. It's preventing them from kind of ever moving on from it. And it keeps, because it's so sensationalized, like it brings it into every aspect of their life. It also, and I wasn't even really considering this when I was thinking about this earlier, but it warps perception of the justice system so that literal judges have come forward and said that lots of people who come into court cases think that there's going to be way more forensic evidence that there is, or that way more is required to put someone in jail.
It's called the CSI effect.
Oh, okay.
So it actually started in kind of the early 2010s, late like 00s.
2000s?
Yeah, 2000s. Yeah, I guess.
Oh.
Where people, because of how the media and these fictionalized TV shows in particular portrayed the criminal justice system and forensic evidence in particular, really warped people's perception and understanding of how much forensic evidence can be available in a lot of these crimes and their mistrust of circumstantial evidence.
Yes. Okay, that's really interesting. I had never heard of that. I also don't watch a ton of crime shows. ACAB. So I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
It also, a lot of these cases like perpetuate racism and sexism and not only show that like certain minority groups are targeted for the crimes, but almost in a way where it's like, it shows that they're deserving of it, or that because of their situation, like of course they're going to experience these crimes. And then also that it can really humanize the villain of the story or the killer. A great example of this, I would say, is the Dahmer limited series by Ryan Murphy. I didn't watch the full show, I don't believe. One, it made me nauseous.
Yeah.
And two, I like really checked myself and was like, I need to stop.
Yeah.
But it was just like my roommates were watching it. So I did see the first couple episodes. And it really does humanize him. Like you see him as a young boy and him growing up. And there's also a movie, I believe, with Ross Lynch.
Ross Lynch, yeah.
And this one was Evan Peters.
Yep.
The show. So you're taking these like very recognizable celebrities that people do love and have these like parasocial relationships with, and then putting them in this role. Same with Zac Efron as Ted Bundy.
Yep.
So you're not necessarily like you see the actor, not necessarily the person. And they show you like what trauma might have led to the killer snapping. So then you start to feel bad for them. And specifically, there was one instance that I know a like co-victim or a family member of the victim in the Dahmer case came forward, but her son was one of the victims of Jeffrey Dahmer. And in the show, they paint him as a romantic interest. And then like they go on certain dates, and he was like a deaf black gay man. And so they like see each other multiple times. But in the end, like Jeffrey's nature just wins and he can't let him go. So he kills him. And I believe this victim's mother came forward and was like, hey, no, like there was no relationship there. She was appalled that they would even suggest that, and that her son was just a victim of this horrible killer.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just kind of like inflating things for entertainment and leaning towards victim blaming.
Yeah. Almost that they like just trusted the wrong person.
Yeah.
Instead of like the other person was a monster.
Yes.
And targeted them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a Netflix series called I Am a Killer that was released in 2018. And multiple family members of the victims in this case said that even though they were given notice that the series was being made, they were forced to re-experience the trauma of losing that loved one. And so we just talked about Dahmer and that specific instance. And I know that I think it's also the Jeffrey Dahmer case, there was a specific victim statement that was made by a family member. And in the limited series, they got an actress to put on the exact same outfit and say the exact same words that the actual like victim statement had in court documents and like reenact it. And the woman who made that victim statement was like so traumatized by one, having to like relive that and re-see it, and just like devastated that that victim statement was made for entertainment purposes. Like, and she was being fictionalized. Like, it was just like so gross. I think like the one big point there is that like we are exploiting victims and their trauma for entertainment, and we are inflating and or dramatizing facts that is harmful to our understanding of these victims and the killers.
Put a pause on that.
But put a pause on that and we'll come back.
Ta-da. Welcome and bienvenue.
Welcome. What's that from? Welcome
To the 25th annual Hunger
Oh,
Games.
yes, you're right. Thank you. I love it when our brain cell actively bounces between my brain and yours. Okay, we were talking about the impact of these like fictionalized but also true crime
Yes.
documentaries. So we kind of discussed about how it can lead to victim blaming, but there was something else in the article that I thought was really interesting. So this was specifically for cases of sexual assault and rape. And it was saying that people who watched these like true crime documentaries on this often felt discouraged from reporting their results, and that their current belief was kind of encouraged that the person who attacked them will not be punished and that they themselves will be blamed. And while I understand that, like, I think that's probably kind of like a double-edged sword in the sense that that is the reality for a lot of women. And so I don't necessarily think that like reporting that is an injustice to these women, like, and spreading awareness that they're not getting the protection and or kind of responses that they deserve. But I also would never want to discourage women from coming forward either. So I don't know if I have an opinion on that. It was just something interesting that the article brought up.
Yeah.
Okay. I think like the final point I would say for who this is impacting, I would say mainly it's the victims of the family and the crime itself. I think that the literature was kind of summing up that it gives people the wrong idea of one, how like a crime went down into the judicial system and how it deals with it. And then it also kind of reinforces stereotypes that encourage victim blaming and may sway people from also like reporting crimes that have happened to them. This is kind of a question that the article brought up but didn't answer. Do you think it's different when the family or people related to the victims themselves are involved in the documentary making?
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
I think one of the powers of true crime is that it enables the people impacted by the crime, whatever traumatic event occurred. It helps them to spread awareness of someone's story, the victim's story. And so I think if the family is involved, you've got the co-victims directly involved in the production of the story. I feel like there's a lot more power in even the telling of the story itself when you've got the firsthand voice like that.
Yeah. I was thinking about the Amy Bradley documentary we just watched and how the family was directly involved in that and had said that they hoped that the documentary would, one, raise more awareness and like provide more avenues for people to report information. Whereas I think there was criticism, for example, like the Ted Bundy files and like the images of the victims that they used in that documentary, like the families of those victims did not approve those images, and they like very much so sexualized the women that were victims and so like without that permission it felt very gross and snaky.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word.
I will say, as much as I think like if the family or whomever is involved in the telling of the story, sometimes you have to be careful because their involvement via an interview or something doesn't necessarily mean that they approve of the way that the final story is told. Like they don't necessarily have a say about what's edited in, what's edited out, how their loved one is portrayed, how the perpetrator of the crime is portrayed. So just because they participate in the retelling of the story doesn't mean that they controlled the way that the story was told. So I think that's something just to be mindful of as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you were executive producing, then sure.
Yeah.
So after all that, my question was kind of like, do we feel comfortable with people profiting off these stories? And so in terms of like consuming it, especially for not just those like dramatized versions of these cases, but even podcasters and who are just compiling information and like recounting it to people. Like, what are your thoughts on the profit that's being made off of those and consuming it?
Yeah, I think I really struggle when it comes to the retelling of stories that everyone already knows. Like when you talk about podcasters who are really just compiling a bunch of different reports
Mhm.
and lists of facts that other podcasters and other documentaries and like they have already told the story,
Mhm.
and that there's nothing else to be gained necessarily from talking about this case again. Like that's how I feel about Dahmer. That's how I feel about a lot of the a lot of the Ted Bundy movies and TV shows and series that we've had recently. Like I personally, I don't want to engage. I don't want to give my attention or money to projects like that.
Mhm.
And I try to be really cautious when it comes to a high level what the overview of the case is. Is there anything to be learned from discussing this case? Like Amy Bradley, for example.
Mhm.
I knew before we watched the Netflix series that they are actively still looking for her
Yes.
and that they were actually involved in, you know, consenting to her story being put out there and
Mhm.
shared. But there are so many cases where it's like, okay, there's not much more to be gained from discussing that case over and over again.
Mhm.
And I get the preparedness as viewers wanting to be prepared and maybe even subconsciously getting that feeling. But I also wonder how much of that creates like even more fear and anxiety.
Yeah. Like fear mongering.
Yeah. I don't know specifically what my answer is when it comes to like how do I feel about people profiting
Yeah.
off of the retelling of these stories. I think I try to, as I said, be very cautious before consuming
Mhm.
any content. I try to look at who's at the helm.
That's a good idea.
I have in the past watched Kendall Ray, who is a true crime YouTuber. She has a podcast as well.
Mhm.
I think she's kind of stepped away from it a little bit.
Okay.
But at one point, I was the most engaged with her because she really made an effort to contact the families and loved ones of these people that she was talking about
Mhm.
and really made an effort to focus on missing persons cases so that
Ah.
talking about their story would hopefully lead to new information.
Yeah.
Or she let family or people contact her so that she could bring their case to light.
Right.
And I feel like that to me is storytelling with a purpose.
Yeah, it's more mindful.
It's more mindful. And it's not just someone who aims to literally profit off of the retelling of someone else's traumas.
Yeah.
Without adding anything to the conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think if I do consume it, I'd like also try to kind of see who's involved in it, who's wanting this story to be put out. And if there's been any backlash to the story being put out, like if it's already kind of received critiques from whether it be co-victims or just like even the general public.
Mm-hmm.
There's one documentary, and I won't name it because I don't want any of the people involved like to be named in this, but there was a person who was falsely accused at first in this specific case and was since cleared from that specific case. And they ended up finding the real killer later. And that person who was falsely accused was mentioned in the documentary or limited series, and did say that there was so many comments on social media that were like, no, he's still suspicious. Like I don't trust him. He's involved in other things. And I think that can be dangerous as well. Not saying that people shouldn't be held accountable for their actions. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I think if that person is truly innocent of that case, like you're bringing a lot of media attention that maybe they like have not consented to and are now being brought back into this thing that they have been cleared of. But then on the other hand too, like I know there's been lots of missing person cases where social media and like media attention has actually gotten justice, like the Luca Magnotta. I don't believe that was missing person, but like wasn't he caught because someone online saw like the electrical socket
Internet sleuths.
Yeah. And so like I don't know what the right answer is.
I don't know what the right answer is either. But yeah, I think it makes everything so complicated because even like you said with Luca Magnotta, with the Gabby Petito case, people were like, so like she was spotted here and
Yeah.
the boyfriend must be doing this, and just everyone needed to have their 2 cents in.
Yes.
And it's so hard to tell whether stuff like that is helpful.
I know. Like, I wonder if, like, now you're giving much more information for the detectives to root through. And then there's also kind of that other aspect of it that for the Brian Koberger case, like, he was on social media underneath an alias talking about the case.
Yeah.
So trying to kind of like lead people astray from looking at him or his mistakes, quote unquote. And so, like, do I want to be listening to that? Like,
Yeah.
like, I think the internet already and like social media in general has so much nuance to it. I think this is kind of just another aspect of it. I think that there's probably pros and cons to it being so like publicly available. Like, I do think we should be critiquing our judicial system and have transparency on how things are carried out. But then I also think we shouldn't be talking about things that we don't know about. So when people are coming to these cases being like, well, I've watched Law and Order, I know how this goes, like, maybe relax. Another aspect that I was kind of thinking of is like specifically for these like dramatizations of them, like the Dahmer limited series of the Menendez brothers. Like, do we need, if it's strictly for entertainment value, can these stories just be fictionalized?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you're not forcing anyone to like relive real experiences. You're not profiting off of that. Like Grey's Anatomy, for example, we're not asking real patients to divulge their medical information. Like, can we not just make this shit up? Like, if you want it for entertainment value.
Yeah.
I understand there's a whole other side of the argument when it comes to like spreading information, awareness, potentially getting people like involved in the crime with information that is like niche on the internet that detectives may not have the time to look for or whatever. But from like strictly from entertainment purposes, like, can we not just make that shit up?
Yeah. I mean, I've always wanted to say this. To play devil's advocate for a second.
White man alert!
I think based on some of the stuff that we discussed earlier in the episode, we kind of know why the fictionalization doesn't resonate as much with people. And it doesn't allow them to see the like humanity of it all, right? They become characters as opposed to real people.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that like when it comes to the worst of the worst, and it's strictly for entertainment, like for anyone out there, if you really like watching true crime and find that like fictionalized stories don't resonate as well with you, like leave us a comment, send us an email.
Tell us why.
We would love to know why, and like not from a place of judgment at all, just like genuine.
No, and I'm not saying like
curiosity.
one way is better than another, and I'm not
at all.
advocating for complete fictionalization either. Like, these were just kind of arguments that I saw, and I don't have the answer.
No,
and you certainly shouldn't be listening to us for answers to anything.
No, but I think that's why we kind of went with know thy crime, do thy time. Because if you're not being cautious about what you are consuming, specifically when it comes to true crime, like you don't know whose pockets you're filling or whose narrative you're helping to perpetuate, right? Like, or how invested you're getting into something that like at the end of the day isn't what really happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation that can be spread as well.
Exactly.
And if you're not cautious about what you're consuming, then you're just kind of perpetuating those stereotypes and like...
Yeah, so know the crime you're looking for and do the research time.
Yes.
To make sure that what you're consuming is, from what you can tell, as ethical
as possible. Yeah. I actually think our title is perfect.
I think so too.
I think there was like a stat in one of the articles that I read, or it wasn't even necessarily like a stat, but it was just talking about how like a decent portion of documentaries that Netflix put out were in 2023, I think it was like 80% of them were true crime or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like just how much money is going into true crime. So we thought it'd be interesting to talk about and to know, as a fairy gay mother, what you're consuming.
Yeah.
And what you're contributing to the world.
Yeah. This is one of those discussions that we attempt to stumble through to get a better understanding of humanity and all of our complexities and how we tell stories and how we consume art and create art and just exist in the world in general. And yeah, true crime is just one of those crazy genres, crazy examples that shines a little bit of a spotlight on like what makes us all human and the stories that we like to hear about anyway. Yeah. So like we said, if you have any thoughts on this episode, make sure to leave a comment below.
Yeah, you can check out the articles in our description. Also, if you have any like Hinge Cringe stories or dating stories that you want to submit, please let us know.
Yeah, any topic ideas, we'd love to hear it all. But until then, we'll say thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Or listening. She hates our auditory.
I do, I'm so sorry. Thank you for consuming.
Thank you.
Us.
Yeah.
Bippity boppity bye.
Crushed it.